The blonde gunsmith's hands trembled not from fear, but from restraint. Laughter snapped through the air at Fort Bragg's elite range as Sarah Mitchell knelt beside the jammed M4, steady and unbothered. "Want us to color code the instructions, sweetheart?" A voice sneered. She didn't flinch, not even when Master Sergeant Coleman leaned in close. His breath heavy with contempt, his words sharpened with venom. "Maybe you're better off back in the armory or building toys." Sarah reached into her vest and pulled something out, something small, worn, and heavy with meaning. A Delta Force patch, edges frayed from time and used. Coleman froze. The laughter around them stopped like a record scratched silent, because only one woman had ever worn that patch on Black Ops detail, and she'd vanished 5 years ago. So who the hell was Sarah Mitchell, and why was a ghost fixing their weapons? Sarah didn't flinch. She didn't speak. Her eyes stayed focused on the weapon, her hands calm and exact, gathering tools with the same deliberate care she might use to defuse a bomb. The men resumed their jeering performance, their egos prickling. In the presence of her silence, each tried harder than the last to one-up the cruelty. One suggested she'd look better serving coffee at the base exchange. Another chuckled that maybe she got the job to fill some diversity quota. As Sarah reached for a drop scope, her sleeve shifted just slightly, revealing a glimpse of black ink curled along pale skin. Coleman was mid-sentence when he saw it. The words died on his tongue, but the moment passed too quickly. Sarah pulled the fabric back down with a flick of her wrist and returned to her work as though nothing had happened. The other operators didn't notice their leader's hesitation. They had no idea the ghost of Coronado sat before them, quiet and watchful, wrench in hand. Have you ever been judged before anyone even knew your story? Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. And if you've ever tasted the bile of this kind of disrespect, you'll understand what happens next. Sarah Mitchell lives like a shadow, invisible by design, 34 years old. She dresses in baggy work clothes that conceal the athleticism beneath. Her blonde hair stays pulled into a no-nonsense ponytail, her face bare of makeup, her voice reserved for technical breakdowns, barrel wear, chamber scoring, trigger pull weights. The other contractors at Fort Bragg have learned to maneuver around her silence. They call her that weird one who never shows up for happy hour. What they don't know is that while they drink cheap beer and talk war stories, Sarah runs the base perimeter, 3 miles every single night, no matter the rain, the heat, or the wind. 1 mile for each ghost that trails her steps. Her reputation clings only to the work. Operators bring her weapons others have deemed hopeless. She breathes them back to life. She can hear a malfunction and name it before the first screw turns. Her knowledge of ballistics rivals government researchers, but she never explains how she knows what she knows. The calluses on her hands tell a truth her mouth never speaks. They don't form where a gunsmith should. These are marks forged from thousands of hours gripping a rifle stock. The edges of her palms are smooth, worn from fast roping out of helicopters. Her knees scarred from years of dropping into firing positions over and over again. These are the hands of a woman who's lived behind a weapon, not just beside one. 5 years ago, she was someone else, someone the world remembered differently. Chief Petty Officer Sarah Mitchell, call sign Ghost. She served with SEAL Team 9. The nickname wasn't just earned, it was whispered. She could infiltrate enemy strongholds unseen, eliminate threats in silence, and disappear before alarms ever sounded. Naval Special Warfare still trains new operators using tactics she developed. She was the first woman to survive the Crucible, 72 hours of solo wilderness survival. Designed to break even the best. In Somalia, she dispatched 12 hostage takers in pitch black darkness with nothing but her sidearm and a combat knife. The hostages never saw her face. In Syria, she saved 23 American contractors. None of them know her name, and under her sleeve, the tattoo told its own sacred story. A custom SEAL trident unlike any other, for stars etched into it, one for each major operation. But it was the inscription that meant everything. Never forgotten. Only operators who've lost teammates in combat wear it. Sarah's bears 3 names, inked in microscopic script along the cresting wave of the trident: Marcus Chen, David Rodriguez, James Thompson. They died because someone safe behind a desk made the wrong call. Sarah lived because they stayed behind and covered her retreat. She carries their memory in silence, in scars, in the dream that wakes her at 3 a.m., in the 3 miles she runs every single morning. The op that shattered her world is still locked behind Pentagon clearance, somewhere in the Afghan mountains. Those 3 SEALs gave everything to protect a CIA asset who turned out to be a double agent. Sarah made it to the extraction point, alone. She dragged Marcus's body for 2 miles before Taliban fighters made it impossible. She still remembers the weight of him, his blood soaking through her gear. She remembers the promise she made, whispered through gritted teeth as gunfire thundered over the ridge. The Navy tried to honor her. Medals, citations, interviews. She refused them all. Medals belong to the dead, she told them. The living just carry on. A week after her return, she resigned her commission and vanished. Now she lives in the background, a quiet presence on base, and she ensures that no operator will ever die because their weapon failed them. It's a penance. Quiet, unseen. She tests each rifle, each pistol, as if Marcus, David, and James might one day have to rely on it. On foggy mornings, when the range is silent and the mist curls over the barriers, she swears she can see them 3 figures standing watch. This is why she says nothing. When men like Coleman mock her, because glory belongs to the dead, the living just carry on. Master Sergeant Derek Coleman has made her his personal vendetta. 6'2" and built like a statue carved from ego and contempt. He believes women dilute the warrior creed. His briefings now come laced with jabs about standards, and he assigns Sarah the most demeaning work, cleaning latrines while others tune weapons, mopping the floors when generals visit. Mitchell, make sure those toilets shine. He says with a sneer, that's about your speed, isn't it? The other contractors glance away. No one wants to be his next target. The operators follow his lead, dropping cruel remarks, quite enough to be deniable. But Coleman notices something that sticks in his mind and won't let go. When Sarah works on weapons, she handles them like someone returning home. There's something in the way she moves, fluid, confident, no hesitation, no manuals, just pure, intimate understanding. It's the difference between someone who's studied anatomy and someone who's held dying men in their arms. One morning, Coleman arrives with an SR-25 sniper rifle out of commission for months. Attention everyone. He barks, let's have ourselves a little skills test. Blondie here thinks she's an expert. Let's see how she does with this. He slams the weapon down on her workbench with unnecessary force. Take your time, sweetheart. We know thinking isn't your strong suit. The rifle is a trap, deliberately sabotaged. Hidden failures layered beneath the surface like mines waiting to blow. Sarah picks it up. Her demeanor shifts. She doesn't hesitate. Gas tube bent, about 3 degrees, she begins. Her voice even. Port fouling consistent with 700 rounds of steel case ammo. Buffer springs compressed past specs. Scope mounts got microfractures. Trigger groups contaminated with sand. She pauses, sets the rifle down, and finishes. There's scoring in the chamber. This weapon hasn't just been neglected, it's been abused. The range goes dead quiet. Coleman's face tightens, his jaw working, his fists clenching. She saw everything, things even he hadn't. Lucky. Guesses, he mutters, but the confidence is gone from his voice, and everyone hears it. He shifted from veiled insults to raw venom, his words sharpened with cruelty. You're one of those women who hangs round military bases trying to feel important. Coleman sneered, eyes narrowing, playing soldier because you couldn't hack it in the real world. Sarah's jaw locked tight. Her left hand closed slowly around a torque wrench, her grip white-knuckled with pressure. Something flickered across her face, then something cold and lethal. The temperature seemed to drop. Her breathing changed, no longer idle, now paced and precise, like a sniper preparing for the shot. She shifted her weight by a fraction. Not enough for most to notice, but Coleman's instincts, dulled as they were by arrogance, screamed. The wrench in her hand was no longer a tool, it became a weapon in her mind. One clean strike to his temple, to seconds, unconscious, muscle memory. Stirred like an old ghost, She calculated force, velocity, angle. The ghost within her had risen, silent and ready. For 3 heartbeats, Derek Coleman stood on the edge of death and didn't even know it. But the other operators sensed something. Primitive fear pricked their nerves, the shift in air, the way animals feel the moment before a storm. Then, from deep in her memory, a voice rose, calm, resolute. "We're better than our worst impulses, Ghost. That's what separates us from them." Double quotes Marcus. The moment shattered like glass under pressure. Sarah released the tool with effort, the muscles in her forearm twitching from restraint. Her hands trembled not from fear, but from aborting the strike her entire body had prepared for. She turned back to the rifle, logging each issue as if nothing had happened. But everyone had felt it. The presence of death had entered the room. Circled Coleman, then chosen Mercy. Lieutenant Commander James Wilson watched from across the range, eyes narrowing, posture sharpening. The way she handled that rifle, the clinical breakdown, it triggered something in his memory. These weren't civilian skills. They were battlefield instincts honed by blood and fire. Wilson stepped closer, his gaze now dissecting everything. Her stance centered, balanced, instinctively tactical. Her eyes scanned for exits every few seconds. When a Black Hawk thundered overhead, she flinched, not like a civilian startled by noise, but with the haunted reflex of someone who'd once taken fire from above. Then, across the clamor of the range, Sarah raised a hand and signed something to another contractor. Tactical SEAL signals. Wilson's breath caught. He reached for his secure phone and accessed a classified system. He typed quickly, narrowing the search. Redacted files flickered across the screen. But one call sign repeated again and again. Ghost. A female SEAL. Vanished after losing her team. Wilson looked back just as Sarah reached overhead to adjust a scope. Mount. Her sleeves slid back. Black ink emerged, a SEAL trident with distinctive custom waves. He knew that variant. Operation Iron Resolve. Only 12 operators were awarded that ink. 11 were accounted for. Wilson's fingers trembled. Coleman had been tormenting the ghost of Coronado. But as Wilson's eyes remained locked on Sarah, he noticed something else. She wasn't as alone in her silence as she seemed. Frank Torres, the senior armorer, a quiet man who'd worked there 3 years, hovered close, always positioned so Sarah was within view, always within reach. Wilson rewound his memory. When Coleman knocked over her toolbox, Torres's hand had drifted instinctively to his hip. It was a motion Wilson recognized. Torres wasn't just a co-worker. He was Overwatch, another ghost. Watching the ghost, Wilson's mind spiraled. How many unseen warriors worked in silence across bases like this, veterans hiding in plain sight, building invisible walls of protection around their own? He pulled up Sarah's file again. Redactions covered much of the text, but the commendations still burned through. Silver Star, Bronze Star with Valor, Purple Heart, twice. And in every photo, the same eyes. Fierce, intelligent, burdened. The same eyes, now quietly maintaining rifles. Then he saw at her final mission report, Operation Crimson Shield, Afghanistan. 3 KIA, Chen, Rodriguez, Thompson, 1 survivor, Mitchell. The file read like a battlefield. Eulogy, intelligence failure, ambush. She reached extraction alone, dragging 100 pounds of gear and classified intelligence. And then it hit Wilson with staggering force. She had saved him. Kandahar. His convoy had driven straight into an ambush. I'd planted the trigger man seconds away from detonating it, but he never got the chance. A figure had emerged from nowhere, neutralized the threat, then vanished. He had never seen her face until now. Wilson's voice cut through the gunfire and clatter of the range like a bullet. Chief Mitchell, is that you? Sarah froze, every muscle locked. Slowly, she turned to face him. Their eyes met, and the memory sparked. The young lieutenant she'd pulled from a flaming Humvee had grown into a commander. Wilson snapped to attention. His salute was crisp, unwavering. Chief Petty Officer Mitchell saved my life. Kandahar, 2019. My entire squad owes her their lives. The words detonated across the range. A ripple passed through the SEALs nearby. Recognition struck like lightning. Operators stood upright, eyes widening. Coleman's jaw slackened, confusion scrawled across his face. "What the hell is going on?" He choked out. Wilson didn't drop his salute. "Master Sergeant, you've been harassing Chief Mitchell, the ghost of Coronado, first woman through Hell Week, the operator who extracted 23 contractors from Syria when the Pentagon wrote them off. She holds the record for confirmed kills in a single op. She wrote the damn infiltration manual your team trains with." Each sentence landed like a blow to the gut. Color drained from Coleman's face. Sarah rose to her feet, calm, unhurried. She rolled up her sleeve, the full tattoo revealed at last. The seal trident, for stars, and beneath it, 3 names: Marcus Chen, David Rodriguez, James Thompson. Etched below, never forgotten. Every operator in that room knew what that tattoo meant. Coleman's hands began to tremble. The young operators, who had joined in the mockery, now looked sick, stunned into silence, but there was no vengeance in Sarah's expression, just sorrow. "I came here to serve quietly, to honor those who can't," she said softly, fingers grazing the inked names. "Every weapon I service might be the one that brings someone home. That's all that matters now." Wilson's voice wavered. "Chief, I'm sorry, we failed you." Her reply sliced deeper than rage ever could. "You failed them." She pointed to her arm. "They died believing in something bigger. They died protecting a sister who now watches their brothers act like schoolyard bullies." Coleman dropped to one knee, his voice cracked. "Chief Mitchell," she cut him off. "I don't need apologies. Be better." Her voice rang sharp. "Real warriors don't announce themselves. They serve. They sacrifice. And they make damn sure others can do the same." The weight of her words settled like a fog over the range. And then Frank Torres stepped forward. He said nothing at first, just rolled up his own sleeve. A second seal trident glinted beneath the overhead lights. "Chief Mitchell isn't the only ghost here," he said, quiet as smoke. "Rodriguez was my swim buddy through Bud S. When I heard she was working here, I transferred. Someone had to watch her 6. The revelation struck like a second shockwave. How many ghosts stood quietly in the crowd? How many wore no rank but bore invisible scars? Sarah and Torres exchanged a look that said more than words ever could. A bond forged in blood, carried in silence. But then came the twist no one saw coming. Coleman, still on one knee, looked up. Tears traced his cheeks. "Thompson," he whispered. "James Thompson was my cousin. We grew up together in Texas." His voice broke like glass. "We joined different services. But he wrote to me, about his team, about you." He swallowed hard. "He said if anything ever happened, you'd blame yourself. Said you were the best officer he ever served under." His shoulders shook. I knew your name. I knew who you might be when you arrived. He looked down hollow. "I hated you because he died. And you didn't. I needed someone to blame." The silence that followed was unbearable. Sarah staggered slightly, like something deep inside had just cracked open. The man who had inflicted the most cruelty carried her brother's ghost, too. The grief they shared had taken different shapes, but the blood was the same. General Patricia Hayes entered, flanked by aides, already briefed. She took one glance at the scene, understood everything. "Chief Mitchell," she said calmly, "we need you." Sarah's expression didn't waver. "I left that world behind." Hayes stepped closer, voice gentler. "Your brothers died so others could live. Honor them by teaching." She paused, then added, "We're launching a program for female special operations candidates." Sarah's fingers slid again over the tattoo, over Marcus, David, James. Her voice was quiet but unshakable. "One condition." General Hayes nodded. "Name it." "Master Sergeant Coleman attends every training session across the range." Coleman's head lifted in confusion. Sarah met his eyes without flinching. "He needs to learn what real strength looks like." Sarah accepts the assignment with a single, firm nod. No media, no interviews, no fanfare. "One cycle," she says, "then I vanish." And just like that, the transformation begins. She refuses to file complaints. No official reprimand for Coleman when questioned by investigators. Her response is calm and clipped. Nothing to report. Miscommunication resolved. And it's her refusal to seek revenge that rattles Coleman the most. Discipline or disgrace would have made sense, but her mercy unsettles him more than any punishment could. The first training session begins at dawn. The female candidates gather quietly, nerves visible in the stiffness of their movements. Then Sarah walks in, dressed in simple, unmarked clothing. The air around her charged with quiet authority. She doesn't stride like someone demanding respect. She doesn't have to. Coleman sits in the back, his presence subdued, the weight of his shame heavy on his shoulders. Sarah begins with truth. Your enemy doesn't care about your gender. Bullets don't discriminate. Her voice carries, calm, clear, measured like a weapon fired with purpose. She demonstrates techniques not from theory, but from scars. She teaches how leverage beats brute strength, how to manipulate angles and center of gravity to overcome size. She shows them that knowledge tested and trusted becomes armor in its own right. Coleman watches from the shadows as Sarah moves, watches how the candidates lean in, eyes sharp, hanging on every word, watches how she weaves wisdom into story, telling them of failures her own without ever naming herself. An operator once dragged a teammate 2 miles through hostile territory, she says. She weighed 130. He weighed 140 with gear. She didn't stop. She didn't collapse. She didn't quit. Because heroism isn't glory, it's refusing to stop when quitting makes perfect sense. She prepares them for more than combat. You'll be accused of sleeping your way up. When you excel, they'll find reasons why it doesn't count. Let them talk. Be so damn good that their opinions fade into background noise. Coleman's transformation happens in inches. Sarah never calls him out, never uses her authority to humiliate him. Instead, she includes him slowly, deliberately as a teaching assistant. She hands him responsibility without spite. 3 weeks into the program, Coleman approaches her during a break, hesitant. My daughter, she wants to join the Navy. Sarah doesn't blink. Her response lands like a bell tolling in the quiet space between breaths. Then let's make sure she enters a better culture than we did. Something shifts in him then. Something deep. His spine straightens, and the man who once barked orders from behind disdain now begins to walk beside the recruits, eyes open, words measured. He becomes an instructor reborn, changed from the inside out. The ripples reach farther than either of them could have imagined. By the end of the cycle, 3 candidates pass special operations selection, the highest success rate in the program's history. Coleman stands at the graduation ceremony, voice low and humbled. I once thought strength looked a certain way. These candidates and their instructor taught me that real strength is harder to see. And he means it. What would you do if someone humiliated you in front of your peers? Let me know in the comments, because what happens next no one could have predicted. Within days, the media descends. Someone leaks the ghost story. The legend spreads like wildfire. Publishers wave 6-figure contracts, clamoring for her tale. A dozen news outlets demand interviews. The pressure builds. And then Sarah vanishes, gone before sunrise. No farewell, no announcement. Just a single note left on her empty workbench. Heroes are the ones who didn't come home. Let them rest in peace. Security footage from her exit. Window glitches mysteriously. Cameras cut out. The trail goes cold. General Patricia Hayes steps in swiftly, redirecting every inquiry with iron precision. Chief Mitchell served with distinction. Her whereabouts are her business. Coleman becomes her keeper. He refuses every interview. I disrespected someone who could have killed me with a paperclip. She chose to teach me instead. That tells you everything about her character. Nothing you deserve in print. 6 months pass. Coleman tends a quiet garden behind the training facility. No signs, no names, just native plants growing wild beneath a hand-forged metal seal trident. 3 stars embedded, 1 for each who serves in shadows. One morning, Wilson tracks her to Montana, a remote gun shop, back room. She's rebuilding a vintage M14, oil-stained fingers moving with reverence. He hands her a folder. Commendations, back pay, recognition long overdue. She doesn't even glance at it, slides it back without a word. I have what I need. He tells her about the program expansion. She listens, then answers plainly. You have Coleman now. He understands better than he knows. Trust him. As he turns to go, she stops him. There's something else, she says, a message For Thompson's daughter, 17 now, preparing to follow her father's path. Have her contact Colonel Martinez at Coronado. The others will remember. And they do. The Ghost Foundation appears quietly. Anonymous donations, gear for female candidates, scholarships for Gold Star children, funding for combat trauma research, every offering silent, every gift precise, every act for those who serve and for those often overlooked. One day, Coleman receives a package, no return address, inside. A challenge coin, GPS coordinates engraved into the rim. They lead him to a hidden memorial in Montana. 3 names carved into stone: Chen, Rodriguez, Thompson. Someone's been maintaining the site. Flowers, fresh paint. The trident never tarnished. This is where Sarah runs her daily 3 miles. The women she trained go on to lead remarkable careers. One heads a hostage rescue, saving 30 lives. Another pioneers combat medicine that saves hundreds. They carry Sarah's lessons into the world, into battle, into legacy. Strength comes in many forms. They learned that from her. Coleman continues teaching, rebuilt by her influence. His daughter enlists at 18, entering a military transformed by the Ghost's presence. At her graduation, Coleman scans the crowd, and then he sees her. Just a glimpse, civilian clothes. Blonde hair pulled back, no badge, no medals, just a nod, a soft one, enough to say I'm still here. Then she's gone, like smoke and sunlight. Torres stands beside her in the distance, silent and still, their bond intact. Ghosts, both of them. Not myths, not stories, legends forged by quiet duty. And then they vanish again, but they're not gone, because they've become something more than soldiers. A network, a movement. Invisible guardians, protecting warriors who stand in the light because someone else chose the darkness. Do you believe true strength speaks louder than words? Share your thoughts. Maybe someone like Sarah's watching. Years pass, and in Montana, dawn rises over the mountains like fire reborn. Sarah Mitchell runs her eternal 3 miles. Her shadow stretches long across the path, golden in the morning light, ethereal, undefined. She carries 3 shell casings, smoothed by years of handling. Marcus, David, James. Across the country, the warriors she trained meet danger with courage, skill, and quiet honor. Men and women stand side by side, no division, no doubt. Old barriers shattered by something stronger than rules, earned respect. Coleman trains a new generation, each lesson echoing hers. The Ghost Foundation works on, silent and steady. Sarah's legacy isn't in articles or medals. It's in lives saved, barriers broken, warriors forged in her fire. She runs on, a ghost among the living, carrying the dead forward with every step. True strength doesn't need words. It lives in quiet decisions made when no one's watching, in the choice to serve, not for applause, but for purpose, in the silence between heartbeats where honor dwells. The sun rises fully, but some ghosts are too powerful for light to banish. They live in every warrior who stands the watch. As Sarah crests the last hill, 3 birds lift into the sky, a cardinal, a blue jay, a hawk. Wings slicing the golden air, catching first light like souls finally free. For those who serve in shadows, the greatest honor is not being remembered, but knowing the world is safer because they were there. Their sacrifice isn't carved in marble. It's carried in every life that continues because they stood guard in the dark.